Even very well done.
Recording in progress.
Not sure if this is, it's kind of loud. Okay, all right, it's 7:02. I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're at the Faulconer Chapman School for our regular meeting. Okay, let's see. Yvonne, can you do call roll?
I will. Step over towards you so we can hear. George.
Here.
Acuff. Here. Buckles.
Here.
McElroy.
Here.
Hebert.
Hodges here.
And Houston.
Present. All right, stand for the pledge of allegiance. Go over there. I don't look. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. All right, so council, you've got a new agenda. I reorganized a couple things. But we also are going to removing new business item 1 and 2. We're going to have another executive session just to discuss those again. A couple of questions we want to make. So I'm going to cross those up. Okay. So, Heidi, was that the only issue resolution? Okay. So, one of the first public comment period, public comment portion of the agenda is the opportunity for the council to listen to the public, but not for dialogue. The public is allowed up to 3 minutes to present information relevant to the city. The topic issue brought up may be referred by the council to the city manager for inclusion on a subsequent council agenda. The council has the discretion to ask questions after comments are concluded. Please note complaints should be addressed to the appropriate city department and or the city manager prior to directly addressing the council. And if anybody has questions for the PGE representatives, that would be the time, because we won't be taking questions. They won't be taking questions directly from the audience, so this will be from council. So, all right, moving on. We don't have public hearing, that's great. Presentation 1 is Maria Pope, and I believe she has John McFarland with her to present. You may have to share the mic.
Thank you very much. Can you hear it?
A little bit. I can adjust it.
Oh, it's on.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'll leave it on.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you very much for having us here today, this evening. Maria Pope, I'm President and CEO of Portland General Electric, and I'm here with Wendy Hillis, who works with all of our communities, Sheridan included, as well as John McFarland, who runs our customer area. And we have a couple of slides. I don't know if we want to show those today. Thank you. First of all, I want to acknowledge that we have had very significant customer price increases, and that has created a burden for all of you as well as for your colleagues within the community and the entire city of Sheridan. I want to talk about our customer price increases. I also want to talk about the risk of wildfire that we're seeing across the state of Oregon and this country, and what we're doing about it. And then we'll take the questions from the city council and from the mayor, as well as any other way you'd like to proceed. So first and foremost, Portland General Electric has served this region for about 130 some odd years, and we've really served to reflect the values of our customers and the regions that we serve. We'll go to the next slide. We think of this as a commitment to reliable, safe electric power. We appreciate that affordability is central to what we do. We also know that many of our customers, many of you here, want to see more sustainable energy futures as we move forward. So taking those values and taking really reliability at its heart, we have worked to secure federal funding. We've worked to secure state funding, and we have also worked to increase the reliability and resiliency of our entire system. Our system is not getting any younger, but we have made consistent investments, and it is one that is today much more reliable than it was in the past. We look at the next slide. I'd like Wendy to come up and talk specifically about what we have been doing in Sheridan and the work that we have done here. Much of this work actually is to come. You're going to see significant undergrounding. You're going to see reductions in outages as a result and increased resiliency. So Wendy?
Thank you, Maria. And really what this slide illustrates is how important our partnership is. And we're very grateful that we've had strong collaboration over the last few years with the city. Some of the things that we wanted to highlight was whenever there are significant events, and those think about storms, we have worked closely with your city manager and public works to maintain communication and also just for information to give to the city council and share with the community. Most significantly, you'll hear more information about this later in the presentation. We have done a tremendous amount of planning for wildfire work, and thanks to your city manager and other local governments in North Carolina and Will County, they have made it very smooth and efficient for us to obtain the necessary permits for the work that we need to do. So we really appreciate that partnership. And I know it's very important to your community as well that we get that work done. And lastly, there's a significant project that you may have heard about, and that is the Sheridan Road overhead to underground project. And again, we're working very closely with our teams, working very closely with the city to design that project and work together to get that project done for the community. Again, these are just a few. There's so much more work that we have in the conversations that we've been having with the community, and you'll hear more about that later.
Thank you, Wendy. So we look at the next slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about wildfire. Wildfire is, I think, something that we've all experienced. I grew up in Oregon, and I've seen wildfires of different shapes and different sorts. Never had I seen a fire that burned as intensely as it did through much of our area, particularly north of the Mount Hood, Clackamas County watershed area in 2020. And the amount of fuel, essentially we had a full and mature forest for which, because we'd stopped harvesting, another forest had grown up. So it was almost two forests at the same time. And that burned very hot. It actually melted our transmission lines. And I had never seen that before. There clearly are issues that we need to address, and we have been working at this pretty steadily for about the last 6 to 7 years. And we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot working with our peers, utilities in other states. We've worked with fire responders and really emergency management folks throughout the state of Oregon, and I've learned a lot there. System hardening. When Wendy talks about taking overhead lines to underground, we've picked very specific areas to really focus in on, and I'll show you a little bit about how we think about our high fire risk areas. Because quite honestly, you all live, work, and are around some of our most significant wildfire areas. We've determined these areas using collaboration with meteorologists, with weather scientists, with the Oregon Department of Forestry, with U.S. Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, as well as many others. The situational awareness, which is the gray bar as you move up, is really around 24/7 monitoring of our high risk areas. We monitor for weather temperature, we monitor for wind speed, we monitor for the amount of what you might see in terms of precipitation and humidity. And we actually have cameras, high definition AI sort of focused cameras that can detect smoke and can easily hone in. We allow that data, which is housed in the cloud, to be accessed by first responders in all counties across the state, and actually the U.S. Forest Service accesses the data from our cameras as well. And what that allows is when there is smoke, because you need two things. There needs to be a spark or an ignition, and there needs to be fuel. And I just spoke about how significant the amount of fuel is across our state, and specifically in this area. Then we need to make sure that we're monitoring any spark. And if there is any spark, then we can see it very quickly, and we can work collaboratively to put it out. And that gets to that yellow line, which is the operational practices. And this is where that fast response, and many of you have probably seen our crews out doing extensive, we call it vegetation management. Most people used to call it tree trimming, and you just, pulling out old, dead, dying trees that are in the rights of way, really ensuring that there will not be limbs that fall on power lines and sparks. And then also, as a last case issue, power safety shutoffs. So power safety shutoff would be is when we have a combination of lack of humidity, high temperatures, and high winds that come together. And we know the statistics and where these come together. They create dangerous situations. And we would proactively shut the power off. We turn to the next slide. Some of this equipment that we put in place, and this looks like a great picture to an engineer and people like myself who like the utility equipment and probably not terribly impressed with it. But on the left-hand side, those are reclosers. And that equipment allows us, when we do shut the power off, to get the area to as precisely as small as possible. So only in the most directly impacted high fire risk areas is the power shut off, so that we minimize the impact to most of our customers. The next is an underground vault. That's what I talked about in terms of undergrounding lines. The one in the middle there is an iron ductile pole. You'll see more of those actually in the Mount Hood National Forest today, rather than out here. But one thing you will see is on the right-hand side, those are fuses. And in 2022 and 2023, we replaced all of the fuses with much more wildfire safe fuses throughout this area. If you look at the next slide, you'll see these are the areas in the high fire risk zones. And you'll see they're mostly the rural areas. In fact, only about 2% of our customers live in these areas. We are clearly, obviously, in zone 10. And it's a very significant, you can see it's one of the largest areas. All of these areas cover about 9% of our total overhead areas. And about 4% of our customers have experienced power safety shutoffs. And we've had several. We probably will have more as we move in the future. Probably wondering what in the world is that zone 11 data that's red. That's just a new one that we added in. We're constantly getting new information from the state forester, from meteorological sources and others, and so we're assessing the areas differently. In the high fire risk areas, we have very different protocols and procedures, and we do very different work in terms of preparation in advance of when we essentially call a beginning of the fire season, which for this year is about June. So if we turn to the next slide, you can see there's actually a power line that gets going through that stand of timber in a much more aggressive way than we probably would have done. And in the future, I think you will see us not only continue that practice, but extend it, because you probably will say, what difference will that tree trimming and removal make if one of those big Douglas fir trees falls on? And as we saw this last January when we had the big ice storm, we saw tree mortality and very significant fir trees fall over at a rate that we had never seen. And that is most likely, the experts will tell us, is because the root systems had been damaged through the several years of high heat. But you did not see quite as much of that as they saw in Washington County. But I promise you, it was very severe for that Beaverton garden home. You can't read this probably, but you can see there's an grant run undergrounding conversion project that will take place between 2024 and 2026. All of the engineering has been completed. You'll see West Valley underground conversion. It's also this year to 2027. Protected devices, those are the complicated repulsor items have been finished. I've just talked about these other vegetation management areas. In your area specifically, we have 11 weather monitoring stations and 5 AI-enabled cameras. And if anyone would like to see how those work and how they continue to have this scope for early response, we'd be happy to show it to you. So I'd like Wendy to next talk about our community resource centers. And again, we employ community resource centers when we have felt it necessary to protect the public to turn it off. And so there's nothing that comes out of all of this. We appreciate the certainly get a lot of, but at our core, what we do is utility is that safety and security of customers, communities, and everyone that we serve is core to our mission. And we know that we put people in a difficult situation. We actually monitor and make sure that we know every customer that has life safety equipment and proactively work with them during the course of the year, but also in advance of the disaster. But Wendy was last here in your community when we went through the session a couple of months ago. So Wendy.
Thank you. So I want to start by saying we have these community resource centers and they're global. One of the things that we do is ours QSPS is public safety call shop. We like to have these community resource centers global units in the community so that folks can come in, ask questions, have we're available. I will say that one of the first things your city manager did early in her time here with Sheridan is we called the QSPS event. And my first call was to her, providing her regular daily updates. And one of them was, when we were going to call it, is asking for assistance in locating windows. And a big thank you to the city and to Heidi, but also to your Sheridan School Board and school officials. Mayor George may have something to do with that as well, in that we were able to obtain the necessary permits very quickly to locate one of our community resource centers in the Sheridan High School parking lot. So we were able to turn that around in 24 hours, and that's incredible. We were very appreciative of that partnership. Next slide, please. And you've heard from Maria, engaging the community sat down with the city of Sheridan School and Sheridan Fire District to talk about what we're doing, what information they need, how we can be stronger partners, how we want to continue to have ongoing conversation throughout the year. So this isn't going to just be before or during an event. This is going to be year round. And also how we have dedicated individuals at PGE now that can come into the community and provide information. Again, thank you to our hosts here at the City of Sheridan for hosting that gathering. And as well as there was follow-up, and I got some wonderful information from the cities about activities that go on here that would be a good place for us to provide information. Now, I hand it over to
So I don't want you to think we're going to turn the next slide around our customer crisis. I don't want you to think that I don't take full responsibility for the significant customer crisis that we've had. We work really hard to keep our prices affordable and as low as possible. And clearly through the pandemic and through the subsequent period of high inflation, our prices have been no exception. And I appreciate how significant a burden that is on communities such as Sheridan, for all of you, for the city, and for all of the businesses as well. We're working very hard to ensure that we can get our prices back to a line that reflects inflation or lower. And we took great pride in having prices for the years. I'd like John to talk a little bit about what we're doing, what's driving those customer prices. But I want you to know that we appreciate that this is the big issue and something that we all are very concerned with.
Mayor George, City Council members, and Sheridan, thank you all for the time for having us. What I'm going to do is take just a couple of minutes and give a little bit of the background around the pricing strategy, but also spend a bit of time around the health that's out there as well. Pricing is one of the most personal and one of the most impactful pieces of what we do every day. It's what impacts people every day. So look at our prices. Historically, we try to keep pricing relatively stable and flat in line with inflation. At the time around, up until about 2010, the traffic right around that way. So I think to make it 2020, 2022, our priority was really to try to do as much as we could to not increase prices at all, even though expenses were going up, inflation started to increase. To try to keep that as flat and still a bit of a dividend. What's happened in 22 and beyond has resulted in significant price increases, as we've seen. And it's driven by a couple of factors. One is it was incredibly high level of inflation, more so than we saw coming. But also, part of that, you also see a significant amount of increases in power costs as well in the overall market. And so as we look to make investments in all the areas that need investment, cost of labor, cost of materials, and cost of goods will all increase as well. If you jump to the next slide, our areas of emphasis are really on how do we continue to invest in stronger, more resilient, safer grid for everybody, while managing all the things going on, wildfire risk, around things such as weather changes and everything that's coming. We'll also ensure that we deliver safe and reliable power for all of our customers. Benefits you're going to see is very mentioned such as hardening the grid, undergrounding, for example, that Sheridan please encourage them to reach out. We have many programs, both some of them are through the federal government, the state government, and also the PG, where we're able to help with customers that are jbuckles and Hebert. For example, if you look at payment healthcare, we have many different options. We have energy assistance programs. What we can do there is really help consumers and guide to match individuals with the right programs that can help alleviate their benefits. An example that I'll give you is on the top right, you see this income qualified low discount program where customers can get discounts on their energy bills paying up to 10% that are based on the amount of energy work they're experiencing. What we see is that often customers aren't aware that these programs are there. So what we want to ensure is that everyone is eligible, everyone that can receive these programs. So the best back to say to do that is to please encourage you can reach out to us directly and we can help facilitate if it's a program for the state of Hawaii, we can help you that guide and help match and ensure that those that need assistance are receiving assistance. Same thing as well, think about some of the building management and energy efficiency programs out there. There are programs to help people with maybe the home energy efficiency programs that can financial assistance with those, as well as helping with tips around less energy use and we call demand response, basically in times of extreme heat like we saw where customers can reduce the use of natural gas compared to that. We want to help match all of our customers with the programs that are out there for assist. As we mentioned these times. The other thing that was highlighted in the next slide is there's also a lot of work that we're doing to ensure that we're going to this, we're maximizing the money out there for the federal government and state government to ensure that we're going to are benefiting from the investment that's been made across the country. We want to ensure that the investment is directed in Oregon for the benefit of Oregon. So some examples of that would be funding available in partnership there with the administrators for critical transmission upgrades, which benefits Oregon. That's $250 that is money that is made available for us to be able to invest. So in addition to the work we do here locally, we are frankly of what's available out there throughout the programs throughout the country.
Thank you. Mayor, do you have any questions or does your council have any questions for either myself, John, or Ricky?
Yeah, I do. I'll go first, I guess. You talked about undergrounding in rural areas, and in our rural areas, we have water districts that they operate on their own. So I'm wondering if, in the process of undergrounding, if you do hit some of their lines or some of their infrastructure, what is the process? Is there able to go around them? If something gets damaged, how does that work?
So we would work collaboratively with them. I would also say with water districts in particular, it's really important that we're in constant contact. I've learned on really severe storms that, well, first it's electricity, and then second is the ability to have water and sewer. And so, because they can't operate it. And so what you can take one crisis, you can get a much more severe crisis if we're not working together. So we really work on having backup generation with the water districts and ensuring that our programs are, we call it standby generation, where we provide some funding for them to have good backup. But we should be working collaboratively. So if anything like that happens, we know who to call and how to work together. But generally, it's and if you think that we are not working with the water districts, please let us know. Because that is when it comes to really the toughest days of the year, super hot or super cold, life safety is first and foremost.
I've got a couple I'll go ahead and ask, and then I'll let the council go. So I was curious, so going forward, I understand that your rate structure kind of was flat for COVID and then the winters after. But going forward, once you reach the level that you'd like to see, is it possible, or have you considered possibly just having it be like a flat rate in the future so people can understand what's coming, like between 3 to 5%, just so it's kind of more like a steady increase?
So we operate in the, sort of the environment of the West-wide energy market, so I don't know if we can provide that level of certainty, but what we're really working on doing is ensuring that we can have much more flexible programs for customers. And so we're combining that with different aspects to ensure that we can keep customer bills as absolutely low as possible. So rather than a fixed rate, the idea is to have programs that allow customers to use energy when they wish to, and then shift their energy usages to what is much lower cost, and be able to give that money back to customers. Ultimately, I would like to see our customer price increases be lower than that 3.5%.
Okay. And I mean, you have mentioned a couple different programs for like income, but I was curious if instead of kind of raising prices like the same percentage in the region, if it's been considered to, raise it in certain areas. Because out here, there's not as many customers, and also the income is lower. So it kind of affects us a little bit more than, say, Tiger or Portland.
Well, I think we need to think differently about our role as we need to think more about rural energy generation as well, so that there's more resiliency in the system. But that also, for example, we have some programs which are called time rebates or some things like that. We need to have them be much more robust, so that there's much more financial incentive to be able to lower your bills over time, to be able to go through that. And I think you'll find that some of those programs really work better for the rural parts of our communities. It's a really good one.
And what is the best way for the public to contact PG with concerns, or how would they reach out? Is it like a general email or phone number or something?
Sure. John probably has the general email, but anyone, I get direct emails. John gets direct emails. Wendy gets direct emails. We get them frequently through Heidi or through others. But we're not a large company, and we seem to be responsive. And in all honesty, with every interaction that we get, I personally
Just as well, what we was fine, I'm sure everyone has it. Our call center line, I realize that the dance like I said, call center doesn't sound very personal. What I would say is that the men and women at our call centers are the locals of the Orleans, and they are incredibly well trained and first to be a guide for your community through all of these programs that we're talking about. And so, as Gary mentioned, which is always welcome. The experts that we would help be a guide for the Sheridan. Then when our contact centers are world class. So if somebody does call in, a particular question, they're very well trained how to get the presentation question, but also have state level questions and questions. So we'll make sure that we get that information as well, and encourage to call and talk to us if we're going to help.
Great. I've just got two more. So I noticed on that graph, and I think I know the answer, but I just wanted to go ahead and ask. When you broke it out between industrial, commercial, and residential, it seemed like the residential rate went up. The industrial just went up a little bit. I'm assuming because industrial uses more energy, but I'm curious if they've really gotten that much of a increase as well.
It's a really good question. And yes, there are different rates. Our customer prices are based on the amount of our costs and our infrastructure that's used. And those very large customers, those industrial customers, which is that black line, they take power at the transmission level, which is the very, very high voltage level. They don't use any of the distribution system. The transmission system tends to never fall over. Does need to be replaced. It's a much more bulk system. Clearly, all of us use it as well, but then after it comes down into our neighborhoods and whatnot. So our industrial customers, they take power essentially the power plant. We hold the whole tower. So you could think of it like getting a bulk discount, but they never actually go into every distribution system. For example, the line center here, and that line center never does any work in the transmission system.
Okay, and then one more. I've talked to one of you about this before, but if you go down our Bridge Street, you'll notice that we have a lot of overhead power lines. And I know I've talked to Wendy about, different, grants or programs or different things to underground those. So just keep us in mind. Because it would be great if we could get all those lines underground, and I think some of them are, not all of them are power.
Right, and thank you for raising that. We have heard that cities are very interested in underground, and would appreciate any program around that. Feedback that today we don't, but we do work with the community in terms of how do we make this project happen, how do we do it at the least cost for you, and how do we even phase it into community budget. So we certainly are happy to have that conversation. But I appreciate you bringing it up.
Okay, well, those are my questions. So council, anybody, probably, okay, Roxie, you go ahead and start.
First of all, I appreciate the programs you have to help the needy, as we are a poor community, so to speak. But I noticed that most of your rate increases are stated in percentages. So my question is, do like residential customers pay the same rate as other like residential customers, say in Amity, Albany, other areas?
Yes, we do. They do. Some customers have higher franchise fees and local taxes than you do. You've kept your fees actually very low. So we pay a fee into the community for the rights of way usage and others. I think we pay just over $200,000 to Sheridan every year. Some communities have a higher taxation burden than you all do. And so actually your community members are paying a little less.
Going back to the public safety tower shut, how do you notify people of that?
That's a really good question. So we've used reverse 911. So you get when you get the Amber alerts on your phone and things like that. I'd say that doesn't work terribly well. We'll also, for people who are medically fragile, we would make proactive telephone calls, but we go through your first responders and your emergency mechanism. So we're integrated into the emergency operating centers of all of our communities, whether that be at the county level, the city level, and others. So it's something we work with Heidi on. It's one of the reasons why, to Wendy's point, we do community outreach meetings, because it's very important that we understand what's the fabric of your community. Every community is different.
Are there third-party companies that provide that service?
Might be, but I don't think that they're operating in the community the same way we are. I don't know if I want to bring someone in from outside. We do have these trainers that are provided by third parties, that when we bring in resources for plugging in and ice and things like that, that is provided by a third party. But we rely on people who work here in your community every day, as well as our line personnel, to really ensure that we're having good communications.
In the event of a wildfire, is the underground service receiver, and do you have to have that power, public safety power shut off?
That's a good question. It's what we want. You have the fuel side of things, and then you have the parking side of things. And if there's really high winds and trees are blowing debris and everything into the power lines, then that can cause the spark. So it's quite frankly, it's very expensive to do. So we do it in the most sensitive areas, and so it should make things safer overall. And we're constantly evolving our system as we learn more. The other is that as you bury the power lines, then they will not be susceptible to trees falling over on them, which is why John was referring to the number of less outages that we expect you all to have after we bury those power lines. But burying all power lines is not the answer, and so it's a more nuanced. I wouldn't say like scientific, it's largely scientific, but also really forestry related.
So when there's mandatory power shut off, and you shut the power off, it would be a whole grid of completely underground wiring.
Yes, it's a whole grid, but that equipment that I showed, the reposts, we try and get the area that's being shut off to be the smallest as possible. So only those areas where there really is risk of fire is where we shut the power off. And it also allows us, it's one thing to shut the power off. We do visual inspections of every line by a human being walking the lines before we restart the power. Because the last thing we want to do is have, with such high winds, you'll have a lot of trees and debris. So we don't want to turn the power back on until we know that all those lines are safe and cleared of trees and debris. And that can sometimes take some time. And so it's the speed of restoration that actually is one of the more important aspects about the power safety structures.
You don't use drones?
We do have drones,
Okay.
but we don't, drones can only work so well.
Yeah.
And drone is not going to remove a tree that's like.
Not yet.
Thank you.
We have, this one has been answered. Thanks, guys.
Sorry, yeah. Would you be able to keep it out here, slide?
Absolutely. Yes, you can absolutely have a comments.
Excellent. So, like we got right, when you're undergrounding power lines, like you talked about the Sheridan Road, who pays for the from the power line to homes? Is that covered? You see what I'm saying?
So it depends on whether, so the work that we do, absolutely, and then that tie line to the home, some of that's all, depends on where, how it looks. We would need to look at each circumstance, but that's generally. Some of them, if they go down miles down the street, or like a long street, that's not a tie line, that's actually a independent line.
And looking at your slides, you already know about 18% to 83% increase in literacy. And I saw the next year you're proposing hopefully a 7.3% for 2025. Can we at least hope that it's not going to go any higher than that for 2026? Is there?
That would be our hope. I mean, we're working on a number of things to moderate those increases. It's important when we get them down. We appreciate that.
And finally, solar really been gangbusters here. Here we got a gentleman down and give us the whole spiel of pictures of our roof, and he was talking about federal rebates, which is great. He said 1/3 of the money that we pay out is we're going to get back. Does PG&E or the state have any programs? We have no information.
Yeah, we do. Let me actually have John talk a little bit about the tax deductions and all the different programs that can take place, and also some things just for your community members to keep in mind as they're tough solar.
Yeah, thank you. Solar is a rapidly growing area to your point, and a couple of things that we see on the solar side. One, you mentioned the federal incentives can go to offset that. We do have many programs as well, at the state level, and continue to try to work and involve those. One thing that I would note is we also, through our contact center that I mentioned earlier, we receive a lot of incoming calls from members of the community all across our service area around trying to understand solar. They have somebody knock on the door, they give them a sales pitch, they sign up for something, they call. What I would really encourage is anyone who's interested in solar to reach out to PG. We can help match every programming incentive that's available at the state level, at the federal level, as well as help work with the Energy Trust Board to help ensure that we're fully maximizing rebates and incentives. And the other service that we provide as well is to ensure that community members are not signing up for a service that they don't fully understand or that they feel they're perhaps sometimes we have found where we get a lot of calls after the fact. Some of those came to my door and sign the contract. I don't know exactly what it is. Can you help me? And at that point, it's a bit of a contract between the private company and the community member. Anything or anyone that wants to engage in solar, we're happy to do that. The solar, very similar to our energy programs. we try to match people so they maximize the value of what's available. We do various things as well.
I think that's all I got. Great. Again. Eddie?
Thanks for bringing up assistance for people to get their bills. A lot of people are aware. And it's up to us to help try and educate these folks. These things are out there to help a lot of people. We got to do rent, utilities, rent, groceries, utilities. And our nonprofits who rely on electricity to keep their services going and to get it where they can't afford it. So I think it's really, it's an important thing for a lot of us to make sure that we keep our people going. And let's get it back up. I appreciate that you guys all help. To work on that to educate everybody. Thank you.
And so maybe my suggestion is just that we work with Heidi to ensure that that takes place. Is that okay? Thank you.
Great. All right. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. How you were gonna take it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, folks from TV would like a photo with the council. So I'm gonna do a 10-minute recess. We'll come right back. Okay. At 7:58. Sorry. Probably outside.
You just did it right, yeah. Following you there. Okay. Yeah, you got it. Sure, yeah, that's
Recording stopped.
Was there slideshow in the packet? I didn't have a chance to go through it.
No, thank you. It was very. I can think of a few reasons. Very few. Maybe this is what we needed. Yeah, that's what I heard. I was reasonably happy. Well,
As you can tell.
It's stated that
thank you, John.
it solves some problems, not every problem. Yes. In terms of,
You said undergrounding doesn't solve, it's not
to what problem?
I guess the wildfire.
I think there's a combination, so we're doing a lot of monitoring, we're doing a lot of these fuses in that I described, about putting the reclosers in that I described, and undergrounding and putting in iron ductile walls is one underground part of the solution. So it's, you know, I think for every area, there's a slightly different solution that's best for depending on what the meteorologists and arborists determine.
So I've, thanks for following my question. I do have another question. What's the solution for power when there's a city or a town that gets flooded? We're flooded.
Oh boy, water is a difficult one with electricity. So I think the best thing for what you don't want to have is electricity. Water's a the Houston and the difficulty there. Exactly, yeah. And that's, you have to be super careful if you go into a situation where you've got electricity going through the water, and that could be really terrible. So, you know, there's a variety of things we do to make the the electrical systems. And again, that's one of the reasons that why overhead lines are sometimes a much better solution. Exactly, yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, that's okay. Oh, no. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, really? Nice to meet you. Oh, great. How many towns do you have? Just Sheridan? Oh, right here. The great area. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Recording in progress.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Are you going to be ready?
Yes, I just started up the recording and we're bringing up the call sheet.
Great. All right, can I have this say what time we're back in session and then add
It's exactly 10 minutes, so we're
Oh,
at 7:48.
great. All right, we're back. Back from the short recess. So now we have, sorry, Dan Blue.
Yeah, I can introduce myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
Happy to. Good evening, Mayor George, and members of council and staff, and residents of Sheridan. My name is Dan Blue. I am the Government and Community Relations Manager for Ecology Northern Oregon. I'm here with.
Good evening, my name is Rudy Martin. I'm the Operations Manager over the Hodges site and the development services area and the transfer station.
And I think do you have a slide deck for us?
I'm getting there. I had to find the page number. I feel like I count the person now.
I didn't send it until today, so it didn't make it into the packet.
We have this.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I sent a PDF today of a slide. It's okay. We can just talk if you want. That's totally fine.
You can talk while I look for it.
Sure. So tonight I'll just cover a few things. I hope to have a brief presentation. We're going to provide a little bit of an overview of Ecology, our company and our services. We are here tonight to talk about our proposed rate adjustment, which is the materials that you have in your packet. Share a little bit of news about kind of what's upcoming with Ecology and services here in Sheridan, and then of course answer any questions that you have. So I'll just jump in and don't worry about the deck if it doesn't come up. Ecology is a employee-owned garbage company. We're the only employee-owned garbage company in the state of Oregon and the largest employee-owned in the country. What that really means is that everyone from the people who sort garbage in our sort lines to our drivers to our managers all own a portion of the company. No one person can own more than 1% of Ecology. So what that does is that profits and shares don't leave the state. They come back to the folks who work in this community, and Ernie's going to talk a little bit more about our local staff in a minute. What that also does is it really anchors our culture that we are focused on providing efficient, safe services, and we're all really invested in the company doing well, and that means maintaining good working relationships with the cities that we serve. are as a company. We're a West Coast only company. We have over 3,700 employees in California, Oregon, and Washington. We serve 127 different communities, and we operate 26 different collection companies. We operate 24 transfer stations, 14 material recovery facilities, and those are the facilities that sort the recyclables into all the different material types and ship them to markets. We also operate 8 composting facilities. Ernie will talk a little bit more about where those are located. So I'm going to turn it over to Ernie just to talk about our operations.
So in Northern Oregon here, we have our operating company, the hauling company where the garbage trucks come out, the transfer station. In Astoria, we have another hauling company. And as a whole, this was really Recology first in Western Oregon back in the day. So Recology Western Oregon is here with the adult. Astoria has all of goes all the way to Rockaway Beach. In the metro side, we operate the 2 largest transit stations in the metro area, Metro South and Metro Central, and then we also have 2 hauling sites there.
Could you lean into your microphone?
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry, I'm right there, Mark. There it is. Thank you. I'm just going to go to my notes. Bear with me. I'm dealing with some allergies tonight. One thing I wanted to bring up is our customer service. The good news is that we are fully staffed now, and the bad news is back in late October, corporate had a cyber event, and they saw it coming, and they shut down all of our operating software. So from the router and the trucks, the office, we didn't have any database for the most part. And so we were literally running these routes by memory, and luckily our guys have been here for a while, and they noticed the mistakes very much, but it did affect our customer service. At that time, in November, we just hired a customer service manager and 2 CSRs. They get trained. But I feel like we turn that page, calls action down, and everything is still good. All right, I'm going to notes if that's okay. Just more about Recology. Employee ownership, steady employment, competitive wages and benefits, and positive respect-based culture along with high work balance was make Recology Western Oregon a great place to work. Between our 3 sites in McMinnville, we have approximately 70 Recology employee owners, of which most live in the Acuff County communities, including Sheridan. Currently, we have 29 route drivers that have been with the company for 1 year, all the way to 47 years, with the average tenure of 12 years. Services that we provide here in Yamhill counties, commercial, residential drop-offs. For residential, we offer a 32-gallon garbage, a 90-gallon garbage, along with every other week recycling. And I just wanted to mention that we have been talking to rural miners. They showed some interest in getting the artery service. It might be beneficial for our engineers if we work together with Sheridan. If that's an interest in you, but let us know if we can work together and agree with that. Let's see here. We have approximately 1,400 residential customers in Sheridan, and every offer. I want to mention the drivers that service your community. Residential garbage is Randy Gamble. He's been here for 46 years. Don Hutchison has been here for 7 years. Residential recycle driver Matt Newby has been here for 41 years. Alicia Trent, 5 years. Commercial front load garbage, garbage drivers. James Brown has been here for 21 years. Todd Nance, 6 years. Tony Shanafel, 3 years. Nabby Perkins, 2 years. Roll-off driver Jeff Wells, 5 years. So altogether, that's 136 years of driving experience with Recology here in our community. Events that we support, as far as the community of Sheridan, we have your city cleanup. I have those numbers. We last city cleanup here, we hauled away 18.5 2.71 tons of garbage, 4.3 tons of scrap metal, and total that was 37,400 pounds of unwanted material out of your community. So good job. Other services that we donate in kind or monetary. We support your community, your sports, your youth sports here in town. McElroy Air Show, Yamhill County HHW, Juliet's House, Homeward Bound Pets, See You Later Foundation, Willamette Valley Cancer Foundation, Provoking Hope, and that's just a short list of things that goes on. So that's all I have.
I just want to, we talked a little bit about the cyber incident, and I want to really call out our operations teams who were not driving blind, because that was super dangerous, but driving without route sheets and without access to customer information. And we hardly got any calls about problems in our collection company, missed cans, because we were picking up everything. And we're also giving folks a break that may not have paid their bill, because we just didn't want to have upset customers in the community. So I just had a special shout out to the operations folks who made it look like nothing was wrong with our company when we were really struggling internally with our technology. So I'm glad that we're back on track. It did get in front of us a little bit in terms of some things that we wanted to do, but I'm happy that by the time we're back here next year and maybe before, to come back with some newer reporting formats and a little bit better customer service overall, now that we've got through the cyber incident. So I have the unpleasant job of talking about rate adjustments, and I regret that we come to you, it's been 2 years in a row seeking a rate adjustment, but I think everybody can kind of understand that inflationary pressures have been hitting all of us, small businesses, residents, people in their pocketbook. It's tough here, and we're seeing the same kind of price pressures in the operation of our business. So I am here to talk a little bit about some of the things of why we're seeing inflationary pressures and what those are. I'm going to talk a little bit about how rate setting is accomplished through our franchise agreement with the city here. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the numbers, and then we are proposing a 5.8% rate adjustment this evening. And I believe you have in your packet a cover letter, something called a cost of service report, titled a rate review report, and then attachments probably. You also have a proposed rate sheet. And I do want to point out that the proposed rate sheet shows a July 1st effective date. That is past. So the rates would not be effective until August 1st, where you take action this evening. Secondly, the cover letter had a typo. It mentions the coast. It really should have said valley. And I apologize if any of you picked up on that. It was just a translation error on my part. So otherwise, everything you have in your hands is accurate based on what we intended. So make those 2 points there. Okay. The way the franchise agreement is set up, there's essentially 2 ways rates can be adjusted. One is referred to as like the CPI adjustment, which is based on the Consumer Price Index, West Coast consumer, and typically capped at 4%. And that is almost like I don't want to say automatic because it still requires council action, but it is more of a CPI was this much, we're asking for a similar level of inflationary increase, and we come to you and that happens typically. The second approach to rate setting is called the rate review process, and it is where we would submit all the documents that you have in front of you. We also supply the city with a third-party independent financial review, which I think you have. I'm not sure if council has that or not. All of those documents together constitute our rate review process, which the city has had time to evaluate. And we're here then to ask for a rate adjustment that is higher than the 4% allowed by the CPI process. So in the franchise agreement allows for a certain range of operating ratio, or otherwise known as margin. So this would be sort of referred to as profit, but I want to point out that profit margin revenues, taxes that we have to pay. It also includes some revenues that we need to keep in the bank so that we have positive cash flow and good credit worthiness. Because garbage trucks, for example, cost $450,000. And so hard for us to just throw a bunch of cash on the table and buy it without that credit score that keeps us so healthy. And then the balance of that is profit and does come back to the employee owners in the form of shares. So I want to explain that. When we are projected to fall outside of that allowable range, and the range is 85 to 91% operating ratio, we are allowed to come to council and ask for a rate adjustment. When we go through the rate review process, the franchise establishes that we would set rates to accomplish an 88% operating ratio, or if you look at it from a different format, a 12% return on revenue. They're both kind of interchangeable. So for this year, without a rate increase, we would be at 94.2 operating ratio, which is quite a bit outside that acceptable range for the franchise agreement. Last year, our actual return was at 94.82, which was also outside that range. So I feel like the 5.8% is like a pretty good increase in terms of, bad amount. It's a higher number than we would like to come to you with, but we try to take an incremental approach to rate adjustments so that if we go too far outside that range, we would have to come back with a double-digit rate request. And we're trying to avoid that with sort of more incremental rate adjustments. So what we're projecting with a 5.8% rate increase, we would land at 89.96. So still not hitting that target, but getting us closer and sort of maintaining a little bit below the target that the franchise agreement establishes. So that was a lot of words. I got one more slide on rates. I just want to share what that looks like for customers. So Bernie mentioned we have 32 and 90 gallon cart service. What this means, a 5.8% rate increase translates to $1.08. Yeah, $1.18 per month for weekly garbage service. So for 32 gallon garbage service, which is weekly, the rate increase would be $1.18 per month. That translates to about 27 cents a week. For the 90 gallon cart customer, that rate increase would be $1.97 per month, or about 45 cents per week. So that kind of gives you a feeling of what that rate impact, 5.8% means to you and the folks who actually have the services. So that's my presentation on the rates. I have one more slide, which is just some updates, which I can go through, or we can take a pause and answer questions about rates. I'll go last slide. So a couple of good points of news. I think I mentioned this last year, but we have posted a waste to zero specialist position. We'll focus just on the valley. So currently we have one person who serves both the coast and the valley, and it's too big of a job. So the waste zero specialist can support schools, can support businesses, can support residents through coming to fairs and doing engagement with the community around waste reduction, proper recycling, how to reduce your waste, like maybe go from a 90 gallon cart down to a 32 gallon cart to save you some money, to reduce contamination of recycling, which also saves the company money, which we can helps us keep rates lower. So I'm really excited about that position. We're interviewing for it now. Secondly, we have added some additional materials to our McElroy recycling depot. I know it's a little bit further for you, but we've added quite a few different plastics that you can't recycle at the curb to our public recycling drop-off, as well as we're adding fluorescent light bulbs, and we're currently exploring LED light bulbs as well, because those are going to start hitting the recycling stream here soon as the early LEDs start to burn out. Then finally, we're supporting the city of Sheridan in implementation of the Recycling Modernization Act, which is going to change recycling statewide. Basically, it's an extended producer responsibility act signed by the Oregon legislature, which basically sends a bill to the producers for packaging, and they're going to pay money into the state, which will then be distributed out to all the communities statewide to improve recycling, modernize the recycling system. It's going to mean $3 per year per capita for the city of Sheridan for you to use for additional education and outreach around recycling and waste prevention. You can elect to have that money come direct to us, or you can take it yourself, whatever you choose. We'll be working with your city manager in the fall on that. It's going to add improvements to recycling processing. It's going to create opportunities for communities that may not have recycling to add it to curbside. It may provide some opportunity to expand your recycling depot, which we service here in Sheridan. So there's a lot of things coming that way. The intent of the Recycling Modernization Act is to have a standard list statewide and reduce the costs that we all experience in managing the recycling system today. So the real benefit for ratepayers is that it should take some of the pressure off of rate adjustments, especially because recycling markets are historically very volatile. Some years they're making money, some years they're losing money, and that when it's being lost, it's a cost to the ratepayers. So it's supposed to sort of level the recycling market. I think that's it for my announcements, and I wanted to open it up for any questions that you have.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give PG. I'll go first. So you did mention the yard debris, and I guess I'm curious on how that works. Do you open it up for people to call and say they're interested, or do you just open it up and then hope enough people, sign up to make where it makes financial sense?
So we can give you a couple different options. So subscription, or it's just flat across the board. Everybody gets together with the service that can be recycled, and then it would offset recycling when we can be recycling when we can be yard debris. Yeah, we have a couple smaller communities that have that subscription. They've done fairly well. There's a community or two that didn't take off initially, but when it's across the board, obviously it supports the program more.
Okay. Are there any other smaller communities, or I guess any community where you do the glass pickup as well?
Yeah. So the glass subscription has not taken off well. So we started in Acuff City a couple years ago. I think we had 14 carts, residential carts. The yard debris has taken off. Same thing with Lafayette. I think they're up to 410 yard debris carts. We're around 100 or so glass carts. So some communities it does well. The unfortunate thing with glass subscription is when you only have a few out there, you're spending a lot of energy to pick that up. So it's not really environmentally aligned with what we're saying.
Can I follow up on that? So one of the things the recycling modernization would do is if the community is interested in glass, the Recycling Modernization Act funds could be used to purchase glass carts and to some degree offset some of the costs of collecting that glass. So that's just one example of for this community that might be able to use funds for that purpose. The Recycling Modernization Act does not take effect until July 1, 2025. Later this fall, we'll be starting to look at options for how to improve local programs, and that's something that we can come back and talk about.
Okay. Okay. Do you know offhand, I'm just kind of curious, do you know offhand how many employees you have that currently live in the city of Sheridan?
I think 2 or 3.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. I know for that one, but I think there might be 2 others that they keep.
Okay. Okay, and I was going to ask, so I know as far as billing goes, it's 3 months. You ever thought of a month? Just because the 3 months, I mean, some people might kind of be like, what was the surprise? It's like, oh, God, because you're talking about, a month increase, but really it's a, combined in a 3-month, period. But
yeah, I'm relatively new to the company, and the jurisdictions that I worked with in the past had a 2-month, one prior and one forward. I'm not sure why we use 3 months. I think it's a carryover from the previous company, Western Oregon based. So that's something I'm happy to talk to our financial team about, and maybe send you the message I can share about that. Like, I kind of honestly scratch my head why we have a 3-month cycle, but.
and I assuming with, this rate increases kind of to meet, inflation in your costs, but in the future, is there like a, flat rate that you would like to stick with? It sounds like, for our franchise here, it sounds like it's 4%. Is that right?
Yeah, I would love to be able to say yes, but we are tied to the economy, and if the economy is doing well, then a CPI adjustment is more realistic, and there have been some years where we've been under 4%. The last 2 years have not been good. And I failed to talk about some of the drivers, but we are seeing labor cost increases. We're seeing fuel cost increases, though they went down a little bit, but they kind of went back up again, as they do before summer hits and summer travel. Also, supply chain issues are still a thing left over from COVID, and they're particularly hitting us in our equipment and supply, equipment and maintenance parts, supply systems. And so those costs are continuing to go up, and when we would hope that they would level out a little bit. So I would love to be able to come back next year with an under CPI, but I can't predict how the next year is going to go.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Those were my questions. Okay. Let's start with Roxie again.
Other cities have opportunity to have a sticker in their window. Sheridan residents have yard debris and the yard debris is full. They can take it to the window without a charge. Is that correct?
I don't know that to be correct, but I'm sorry, because I know that we have the window clings or stickers in the communities that we actually have yard debris service for. So I'm not aware of that being the case here for Sheridan, because we don't have a yard debris program. So that's been linked to the yard debris program and the communities that actually still have yard debris.
That's not a possibility. I mean, if we were to take it to McMinnville, and we would still have to pay.
Yeah, that's a program element that we could explore further. We certainly do that at the coast, and we do it for like McMinnville residents can bring yard debris to the transfer station for free, but they're also paying for it in their garbage bill. So there's a little balance there, right? They pay for the curbside, but when they have a whole trailer, they can bring it to the transfer station. So we can explore that as an add-on for this community for sure.
Sometimes there's a time of year that it just gets really full. I also want to go back to glass. I used to be a proponent for glass pickup curbside. I understand unless you get enough participation. But if the citizens of Sheridan would use the dumpster down at Public Works and show that we do want this program, it would be a step toward getting that to happen if we want it. That's all I have.
Okay. All right. Liz, anything? Okay. Lucy?
Well, I just want to say, as an observance, that the mailing out the bills every month, and then calculate it in your head what post stamps are going up to 75 cents. So the next thing we're going to see is that you're going to be encompassing the price of postage. So I'm all okay. My garbage bill is one of the least expensive bills that I have. But in lieu of that, it would be nice to have the yard debris be able to take it to Mac if they were able to come to. I know they have it in Newburgh, have 2 little dumpsters. And Sheridan is very fortunate to have a glass dispensary at the end of Sheridan Road. Whether you want to wait 2 or 3 months and take 2 or 3 buckets in there, at least it's right there in Sheridan, which is better than not having anything at all. So I do appreciate those dumpsters that we have at the end of Sheridan Road, because that's free service for everybody, 1 hour. So thank you for that.
The glass depots actually work. The glass depots actually work better for smaller communities, in my opinion. You just have to control the information.
The only other thing I would say about glass recycling is that the legislature is looking at expanding the bottle bill to include wine. And if they also expand that, which is a tougher process, but liquor to go into the deposit system, it might change the need for curbside recycling to some degree, so I'm kind of thinking like wait on glass till next year till we see how the Recycling Modernization Act kind of plays out, and then maybe have a conversation about glass. But I've heard a couple of folks say interest in yard debris. We'd be happy to come back and talk some more about that in terms of potential costs, et cetera.
Right, Jim. Two things. What was last year's increase?
I'm sorry, I should have had that. I feel like we're in the 4% range, Heidi, but I spaced looking that up tonight. My apologies.
I had the late back to the two, but I did well. As far as recycling, we've heard the Chinese, a lot of our recycling cut back immensely on what people accept. Something as simple as a pizza box in a recycling bin will cause it all to just go into the garbage. Is that true?
No.
Good.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Do you want me to expand on that?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So China's green fence, they really tightened the amount of recycling that they would accept, mixed recycling, because it was highly contaminated. The Recycling Modernization Act was kind of birthed out of that big change in China. The reason we have that act in place is because it's an acknowledgement by the state, people who work in this industry, that we can't get away, nor should we get away with sending a bunch of garbage overseas where a lot of it ends up in the environment. And so the RMA is designed to make the process simpler, a uniform statewide list, everybody recycles exactly the same thing. It adds more materials to the list, like styrofoam, plastic holders for 6 packs of beer, which I'm partial to. It adds shredded paper, which we collect in some of our communities, but not all. It adds a number of other plastics materials that a third-party organization is responsible for providing services for and collection for, funded by the packaging manufacturers, not by the consumer. So people ask me, like, isn't that going to translate to a rate increase for my 6-pack of Coke? And I asked that question of the Oregon DEQ, and they said, you have to understand, you could go to 10 different stores and pay 10 different prices for a 6-pack of Coke. It's not going to trickle down. It's just pennies for the packaging manufacturers. Think about Amazon, Procter & Gamble. Those are the folks that are going to be paying $50, $60 million the first year, $140 million year 2 into Oregon to improve the recycling system. So you can put pizza boxes in your recycling as long as it's not like coated in cheese and all of that. If it's really contaminated, put it in your garbage. But if it's a pretty clean pizza box, I'm going to go on record and say, go ahead and put it in your recycling. They'll argue with me about that.
The proposed 5.82 rate is college-wide, is that correct?
It is not. So we have different rate adjustments for every community that we serve. There's a lot of different factors that vary by jurisdiction. So distance that is traveled, whether you have recycling curbside and glass curbside or yard-free curbside, there's a lot of variables, and we don't, cost of service, we don't just do a blanket company-wide or even within just the valley. It is tailored. So you can see in this report that looks like this cost of service report, it has our valley business totals, and then it's allocated out to different calculations, either labor hours or it's calculated to deliver the proposed rate adjustment over here. So this is unique to your jurisdiction. And some jurisdictions we've asked for more this year, and some we've asked for less.
Part of the reason I asked is I was looking at the budget we just passed recently, and we're paying you folks, or you're paying us less by about $7,000 from your franchise fee from last year. And $7,000 over we received 1,400 customers. It's, I'm not saying your rate increase is outrageous, but it seems like we don't get a break for lowering your franchise cost for sure.
Yeah, that's a great question. Our actual franchise fees were down $23,848 for this company last year. and projected to be down 27,093. I don't have an answer for why that is. I'm not the finance person who generated this report, trust me, but I can ask that question and get that information back.
I think that that's how you said it. Thank you. We're being us, and then we're being more, it sounds good.
I agree.
Thank you. That's all. Okay, all right, Ian.
Excuse me, I think I have to move this back. You guys stand over. So you spoke a lot about the reasons why costs are going up. What are you doing to create more efficiencies within your
There's a couple of things. I'll be honest, Recology really focuses on safe services, efficient services, valuing our employees, but we have not invested in our technology very effectively. I think some of our systems are quite outdated, and I think it shows up honestly in our customer service center, where we have folks using 30-year-old customer account technology. So our CEO recognizes that. He comes out and visits every single business up and down the West Coast once a year. And this year, his focus was on technology improvements, which will lead to greater efficiency. So one of the things that we've already started to do, and Ernie can speak to this, is install Routeware, which is an automated routing system built into the truck that when a driver sees a no set out or a highly contaminated cart or a snow cone lid where the lid is like this and this garbage is piling over and onto the ground, the driver can communicate directly with our operations system and provide feedback to the residents through that Routeware system. So that's going to improve our efficiency. The more efficiency, the more we can keep rates down. Secondly, we are going to see an investment in our customer service system, which will reduce hold times for our customers, which improves our customer service efficiency, which also helps cut some of those costs. We're also looking at, always looking at the cost of disposal. Right now, our material goes to Coffin View. It used to go to River Bend, which was maybe not available to us. Coffin View's rates are going up, and so we are talking to other entities about where if there's a better, less expensive way or place for us to take garbage. So those are just 3 examples, but I've heard Ernie say this, I think he said it last week in front of another city. We run pretty lean. I'm from the regulator side. I've been in government for 23 years, and it's my first time on the private side. I looked at these kind of reports from your perspective, and I have to agree with them. We do run a pretty lean business, but there's room for improvement.
We are budgeting for a reroute program. It was actually linked with Routeware, which is the computers that are in the trucks as well. With all of the growth that we see in all of our communities, let's just get to that time where overall reroute is going to be beneficial to efficiencies as well. And then I guess you can settle it better. She says I'm not allowed to go to that part. Recycling, is that true? If it's wet, we get more money for it. So if it weighs more, no, I'm just kidding. Do not quote me on that. No, if it's intact and if it's moist, it's okay. So just fine. They get wet in the cardboard containers in the winter time, and they just make harder bales, heavier bales. So
Cardboard goes to a fiber plant up in Longview, where it is added to water, and then it is broken down into a pulp. And so I just look at it as we're in the Northwest, and the little water at the front end is not as important.
Right, Dave?
I've got that.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Being here. Okay, so the updated agenda has the vote for the resolution to adopt the findings and recommendations of Recology for review.
Ecology's rate review service and service report, proposed rate schedule as presented.
First,
Resolution 2024 dash.
Liz, were you gonna second?
Yes.
All right, Liz seconded. All right, any discussion?
Well, I have I mean, I appreciate everything they do, but Jim brought up a really good question about the franchise versus rate increase. And that was a question that I kind of like to just have a little explanation for also. In voting for this, I don't know if it just kind of gets left out, or if it come back, or if you can get it answered, or.
Yeah, I think they'll get the answer to this.
A good answer.
Sure. I guess technically.
I just thought it was an interesting observance that Jim brought up.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I'm kind of scratching my head. I will say that it's okay.
Other thing that is important is that that's the other part. So looking at the actuals becomes much more important. So I will be very, because I respect now, but that's just another thing.
Okay, what I'm looking to is last year's, because you still don't have the actual figures.
Yeah, I know,
That's
so
the
that's
figures.
what I'm saying.
But for sure, they have come down. When you look at your budget, you get shot.
So I will absolutely look into that and provide information back to you. Franchise fees are calculated on actual actual dollars received, not on projections. The projection could be off, but I want to go back and make sure that the franchise fees paid, especially during the cyber incident that kind of set us aside for 4 to 5 months, that we have absolutely correctly caught up on everything related to franchise fees, because I'm scratching my head about that number a little bit, especially if there's been growth in Sheridan. So it's been pretty flat, but still. So it is, I think, 3% of receipts. And so I will have the financial team do an analysis and provide that to you, and you should be able to check that against, of course. So I apologize for that.
That doesn't affect this agreement, though, that's something separate, so we can still go ahead and approve this.
Yes, right.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on that? All right, I'll call for a vote then. All in favor? All right, that looks unanimous. Okay. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Just a reminder, we can approve both of these items at the same time. Roxie.
Make a motion to approve city council meeting minutes for June 17th and July 9th, and the voucher directory as presented.
Okay, first.
Second.
All right, second. Any discussion? All right, Jim.
In the minutes for 17th June, there's a quote in here about the Sheridan City Council related to this listers for the first and second time. I don't believe the second or the first belongs to we got an extra number.
It was probably the first and the second time, because we did 3 times.
Right, but this is all in one paragraph.
Oh.
First time, second time, or the other, I guess it might have been the second time.
He's on page 6.
Yes.
The second check one.
Yes.
First, second set.
So it's probably should be second, if we're still in there.
I see it.
That's how it gets a piece of cake, and then, that's all I have on this. As far as the vouchers, wow. I had numerous questions, and I didn't find any problems in here. I had a lot of questions about why we do what we do. I spent close to an hour and a half with you and Stacy discussing all this, and I didn't find anything wrong. We're not losing money, nobody's pocketing spare change or even the big bucks. It's just the way we look at this, the way we
write it down, line numbers between the general fund, the street fund, the water fund, and the sewer fund don't always match. So if we're buying a product from all those funds, it will be labeled different things because of the line numbers. So I talked to Stacy, she looked at that a little bit, but I think that comes back to you too, Heidi, to rearrange those. So, you know, when you want, I'm trying to find a good example of it, because there's this, well, under this, people might even catch this flagging class. I know what that is. That was teaching how to be a flagger out on the highway. It's charged to the water fund, or excuse me, the sewer fund, streets, and the water fund. Two of those called travel, training and travel and education, but the streets, which is primarily closely used for, it's called outside services. And so I asked why, because the amounts are the same, the product is the same, we're paying for a class, and it's just the differences in the code. So that was one thing I chased down today, because it was a little irritating the way these, but they kept doing that on the way through. You go, wait, why does it get it? So that is going to be looked at. And then in the same token, last month, I brought up that there was no breakdown for the credit card, and we did have a $24,000 credit card charge that we really didn't know exactly. Yeah, $24,950.50. But we didn't have the breakdown we normally get. It turns out that was a 3-month bill. That just, things have changed rapidly in the finance department with Marissa leaving and changing over. But bottom line is it all came out exactly right. I again had questions that were sufficiently answered, and I could not find any even suggestion of theft or not knowing what it was spent on. It was just not annotated publicly for us, and we now have the sheet. It looks just fine. All the numbers match what we were looking for. So the rumor that we spent $24,000 and didn't know what it was for, no, the numbers were there. The city council did not have those. We now have them, and it all looks good. But that's really my only comment about the stuff here, is that yeah, look good. There was just questions to be asked. They've been asked to answer to my satisfaction. And I don't know if anybody else found anything in there. Yeah, but
I have a question.
but
Who produced this stuff?
oh,
Breakdown of the charts.
it was Stacy, I believe. I guess you can see how she broke it down too, between Yvonne's charges versus Heidi's charges. And she's got all the receipts, because she asked off there was one I had a question about. Matter of fact, yeah, I'll bring it up now. There was one charge that stood out, and I think, I don't know how it happened, but the city bought a outdoor 5-gallon steel butt can, which is a cigarette disposal can, if I understand it right. We paid $310.86 for it, and in discussing this wasn't going to go out in public where it needed to be monitored. That was for either the water plant or the public works area. They could have probably done with a 5-gallon bucket with some sand. So it might have been a little bit overspent. I could not find that product on Amazon. But still, we purchased it, and it's annotated, so I don't have a problem with it, other than maybe we could have done better if we looked there locally versus on Amazon. But I don't consider that fraud, waste, and abuse. It's just probably oversight is. I hope we're using it. I didn't ask over to public works it's being used, but there's somewhere being used. It's not something anybody want to take home. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Liz.
Page 24 of 180, the cooling center. So there's a $2,000 community development expenditure. I thought we had an agreement with the American Legion that we were paying for some of their electricity. Is planning services, okay, wait, page 46 of 180, $5,530.21. This is for the city planner, is that what's the plan?
Yeah, but some of that is also billed out to the people that come and have applications for the other person. So Yvonne and I were just talking about a way that we need to start breaking that down to what part of this is paid for by the city and what part is recovered by development applications. So when we switch over to Tyler Tech, I will actually have a report. Okay. Thank you. That's it. This one is really good.
All right, any other questions? All right, I'll call for a vote then, all in favor? Lucy, did you?
Yes.
All right, sorry, I missed it. All right, that's unanimous. Okay. All right, moving on, that's gonna be quick. New business, 1 and 2, we're crossing out, we're gonna have another executive session, sorry.
Did you do the bulletin board expense?
Oh,
G
nope.
or H?
Nope, sorry. Skipped it. All right, bulletin board expense, that's on page 7. We have a motion to approve that.
I make a motion we approve the bulletin board expenses as presented.
Second.
All right, first and second, any questions? Ian?
What is the motions that are spent in this one?
I think it's the ones that go in the bulletin that have, like, the city, like when we have job offer openings, where we have events.
Expand it.
Planning commission about what it's broken, direct line, you have your ad or the contact the mayor. So anytime you want to see the invoice, just let me know.
I wasn't, I'm not concerned about that necessarily tonight, just because I'm interested in what was spent, but specific.
Well, that's what the invoice details.
All right, any other questions? Okay, all right, all in favor? Ian, did you read it? Okay, all right, so that's 3, all, right, okay, all opposed? Okay, all abstaining? All right. All that passes. Okay. All right, moving on, so new business. So 1 and 2 are crossed out, we'll have executive session for those. Talk about those again. So mayor appointments, first one's Parks and Rec, he already applied. He was here, he had to go. So I was just gonna go ahead and approve him again, since I've already approved him once. He'll be on Park and Rec committee. So for planning commission, yeah, John Jennings. Oh, John isn't here? Okay. Okay, does anybody have any, concerns about appointing him without him being here? Yeah.
I got just the opposite, there's one spot open and we certainly well qualified on the planning commission as someone working in construction for 29 years and construction management. Like yours, I think he's an excellent candidate, if I understand correctly. He's been to a meeting, he just wasn't on the commission.
He has not been to a meeting, but his neighbor is very involved with the meetings. So that's something.
Okay. Does anybody have any concern, any problem with the appointment? All right, well, I'll go ahead and appoint John. I know that position's been open for a while, and there's a lot going on to go. So we'll go ahead and appoint John Jennings as well. So, all right, we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. So the first one, ordinance 2024-04, ordinance amending chapter 5.32 of the Sheridan Municipal Code relating to solicitors. I believe, yeah, we have a few questions. I believe did we vote on this or did we have a hearing for it? 2 readings of it. So this is the third. Well, it's good, Tyler, for that. Okay. All right. Got a motion to
I'm
To read it
sorry.
first, Roxie.
All right, Tyler, go ahead.
Ordinance 2024-04, an ordinance amending chapter 5.32 of the Sheridan Municipal Code relating to solicitors.
Make a motion to accept the reading.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, all right. This is a roll call vote, right? All right, go ahead.
I'll speak loud, so sorry about that. Acuff,
Yes?
Buckles,
Aye.
McElroy,
Yes.
Hebert. Hebert?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So we're done with that one there.
Okay. Okay, number 2. Ordinance 2024-05, ordinance declaring a ban on psilocybin service centers and the manufacturer of psilocybin products. Referring such ordinance to the voters and declaring emergency. Okay. Do we want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move to read the ordinance 2024-05, declaring a ban on psilocybin service centers and the manufacture of psilocybin products, referring such ordinance to the voters, declaring an emergency, read by title only.
Second. Okay, first and second, any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? Okay, all opposed? Okay, that passes. Tyler?
It does not pass, Mayor.
Oh, does it?
The vote to read it by title only has to be unanimous.
Okay, so you get to read the whole thing again?
I do get to read the whole thing again.
Okay. Well, I was hoping to have it. Save some time, go ahead.
Ordinance 2024-05, an ordinance declaring a ban on psilocybin service centers and the manufacture of psilocybin products and referring such ordinance to the voters and declaring an emergency. Whereas, in November 2020, Oregon voters approved ballot measure 109, known as the Oregon Psilocybin Service Act, codified at ORS 475A, which allows for the manufacture, delivery, and administration of psilocybin at licensed facilities. And whereas ORS 475A.235 provides that the Oregon Health Authority will regulate the manufacturing, transportation, delivery, sale, and purchase of psilocybin products and the provision of psilocybin services in the state. And whereas the Oregon Health Authority has completed their rulemaking process to implement the state's psilocybin regulatory program and has begun accepting applications for psilocybin-related licenses. And whereas in November 2022, the City of Sheridan voters passed a 2-year temporary ban on psilocybin-related businesses, which is set to expire at the end of 2024. And whereas ORS 475A.718 provides that a city council may adopt an ordinance to refer to the electors of the city prohibiting the establishment of state licensed psilocybin products manufacturers and or psilocybin service centers in the area, subject to the jurisdiction of the city on a permanent basis. And whereas the Sheridan City Council believes that referring the question of implementing a permanent ban of psilocybin-related businesses within the city is in the best safety and welfare of the people of Sheridan, and whereas the City Council seeks to refer to the voters of Sheridan the question of whether to establish a permanent ban on state-licensed psilocybin product manufacturers and psilocybin service centers within the city's jurisdictional boundaries. Now, therefore, the City of Sheridan ordains as follows. Section 1, Prohibition. The establishment of psilocybin products manufacturers licensed under ORS 275A.290 and psilocybin service centers licensed under ORS 475A.305 is prohibited within the City of Sheridan. Section 2, Refer. This ordinance is referred to the electors of the City of Sheridan for approval at the next statewide general election on November 5th, 2024. Section 3, Ballot Title. The ballot title to appear on the ballot shall be prohibits psilocybin-related businesses within the City of Sheridan. Question: shall the city of Sheridan prohibit psilocybin-related businesses? Summary: state law allows for the manufacturing, transportation, delivery, sale, and purchase of psilocybin, the psychedelic drug found in certain mushrooms. State law provides that a local government may adopt an ordinance to be referred to the voters to prohibit the establishment of licensed psilocybin products manufacturers and/or psilocybin service centers. The Sheridan City Council adopted an ordinance to refer to the voters that prohibits psilocybin-related businesses in Sheridan. Approval of the measure would prohibit the establishment of psilocybin product manufacturers and psilocybin service centers within the Sheridan city limits. Section 4, Explanatory Statement. The explanatory statement shall consist of the following. Explanatory Statement. Approval of this measure would prohibit the establishment and operation of psilocybin-related businesses within the city of Sheridan. The City Council may adopt an ordinance prohibiting the establishment of psilocybin-related businesses within the city, but the council must refer the ordinance to the voters at a statewide general election. The Sheridan City Council has adopted an ordinance prohibiting the establishment of psilocybin-related businesses within the city of Sheridan, and as a result have referred this measure to the voters. If approved, this measure would prohibit psilocybin-related businesses within the city of Sheridan. Section 5. The city manager and the city recorder shall take all steps on behalf of the city as necessary to carry out the intent and purposes of this ordinance in compliance with state and local law, including but not limited to publishing the ballot titles as provided by state law, publishing notice of the measure and filing this measure with Gainesville County Elections Division. Section 6, Emergency Declared. This ordinance being necessary for the peace, health, and safety of the city, an emergency is hereby declared, and this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage and adoption by the city.
All right. Would like to make a motion to accept the reading?
Make a motion to accept the reading.
All right, first.
Second.
All right, first and second, any discussion? This is a roll call vote. All right, roll call vote.
Acuff? No. Buckles?
Aye.
McElroy?
Yes.
Hebert?
Aye.
Houston? Hodges? Yes.
All right. That takes care of that one. Next is 2024-. Which one? Which one? Yeah, two. Okay, 2024-U. Okay. Changing the authorized sellers and establish access to the first real estate to the loan account. This is the updated one. Oh. Okay. Okay, so we all got, so sounds like there's a typo, is that what, the only difference? Okay.
This is the typo is in section 3, and essentially repeated itself. The city manager is authorized to work with the city manager.
Oh, okay.
So,
The city shared.
yes, at the city shared. So it just says now the city manager is directed to establish online access to authorized users to manage the city's depository accounts. And then the other update was at the bottom, it said today was the 17th of July. We should say the 15th.
So if we want to pass this, do we just say as amended, or since you handed us a new one, can we just pass it?
I would recommend that we just make it clear that we are adopting the amended version.
Okay. All right. Does somebody want to make a motion to approve resolution 2024-U as amended?
I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2024-U as amended.
All right.
list of the designated signers, not that it's important, but this shows replacing two people and only having two replace both of them. I would just like to, me personally, I'd like to know who are the designated signers, and it doesn't need to be in the resolution. Give some managers to tell us that we will get that list.
Yes, this is, Don Hamilton,
So it's only four. Okay. All right, anything else? All right, I'll call for a vote then. All in favor? All right, it passes unanimously. Okay. All right, moving on to department reports. Yeah, sorry. Move things around. So this one's on page 68 through 90, the sheriff's report.
say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the sheriff's office, we had a couple of meetings with them, but in addition to that, they submitted their crime summary reports. Well, in addition to that, they would like to come and to the city council tonight. There was two of them here earlier, and they, you never know when everybody calls away. They would like the opportunity to meet with you and introduce themselves. And they, Alex Franklin, Alex Grant will be is the new day shift. So he will be here during council meetings, and he would like to make us have more of a presence during meetings. So I think that would be very nice, and he'll be the person that will also answer any questions. But we may have to be kind of flexible, understanding that he can get called later.
Yeah, those usually easier at the start of the meeting, so maybe you can have the first.
Yeah, you can rearrange the agenda.
Yeah.
You can rearrange the agenda.
He knows how to do that. Okay.
Yeah, I do have a comment looking through you. I mean, there's plenty of categories for these kinds, but I've noticed DHS pops up a lot. I think I counted. It's kind of confusing because I kept flipping the pages and I wasn't paying attention to the page and went into last year. So
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that.
yeah, but I know there's at least 6 or 7. And I believe from after meeting with Captain Whitlow, it sounds like Yamhill County, they have detectives and they work on those cases with DHS. Which is good. It's just, also it's DHS, so you don't necessarily know what's going on, but it's not sad to see. But anybody else have any other?
I did. I've noticed that overall, looking at the crime summary, crimes being handled is down significantly, especially compared to a year ago. All the categories you want with the exception of rape. But from 86 total to 32 total, and if you've got the same police coverage and you're doing the job, and you're improving in Sheridan that way. And then looking through what I got to different things from you guys, we got briefed by the sheriff about what these numbers mean. So I was looking for ones, disturbance, trespass now, behavioral health concern. And it's not like they're goofing off, but they're, as I check the times, it doesn't make any difference time of day. We're seeing trespass now in the middle of the day, middle of the night, prowler right after midnight. So it looks like they are really doing a good job. I hope that is true. I have no proof of it when the status they give us. They've been doing their job. That's it.
I was going to comment to talking with the captain. Sounds like, did he say starting September 1st? Let's see, was it 402? It's basically an amendment to Measure 110. Yeah, so it's basically an amendment to 110. So we may see increase in drug arrest. They are going to be able to arrest people for having drugs on them. Maybe in their report they can explain it, because it sounds like Measure 110 is still there, but there's changes. So maybe the next month they can talk about the changes to this is,
a state one.
yeah, state change. I think McMinnville made an ordinance banning public drug use, but
Yeah.
it was already legal anyways. I think they anticipated that Metro 10 was going to be maybe even repealed or modified further, so they were kind of getting ahead of that. But as far as I know, that's still covered by the state law. Okay. Any other questions on that? If not, we'll go on to Public Works Director report. Gary. Gary's here.
No violent means.
I don't know about the question here, but I have comments and they're both positive. It's amazing, it's great. All you have to do is cut the grass and I got an inch flies. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we've done a lot of maintenance around lagoons this year, and we're trying to do more all the time. As equipment's kind of breaking right now, but that's they're right in the ditch area, right along next to the train tracks as well. So we've been in communication with the railroad. They sprayed, so it is dying, but it's still there. So it still provides habitat for them to live in. So we are working with them, trying to figure out how we can. We're going to do our best to cut it from our side, so that way we don't have to pay the rail master has to send somebody out to be on site to make sure that we know to get out of the way when there's a train coming. So, yeah, but that can be very costly to try to mitigate it.
I thought it was very interesting. They had the bee problem in the park right after the honeybee. And then the second hive of the sport just moved down.
That's what Kenny said yesterday.
And then finally, I love to see that we're paving the streets like crazy, thousands of pounds of asphalt, and you're continuing to work on that and get the roads graded, dust control in place. I think people have really wanted it for a long time. I think it's great. Is it the weather mostly, or just?
It's been weather related, and it's been just time constraints with all these other projects that we have going, like the Southside Park project, and we're just able to get the grader back from the paving company for easy that for them. So we had to also find their schedule, but I know that it's they're full speed ahead on it as of today.
As far as the paving goes, is that in addition to what's going to be having the sort of thing about county's going to be helping us with?
Yeah, the chip sealing projects is supposed to start August 26th. That's when this is just patching the potholes, and we're doing the best we can, but we can't see it all, and so we're gonna miss them. So we need council and the public to let us know if they see them. We have to ask them. So because we want to do the best.
Can they report that to the complaint?
They can call that public works office and leave a message to Sandy or City Hall and leave a message, and then we'll get to myself and Kenny.
Yeah, I've noticed a couple.
They can also use the farm.
Oh, yes, that farm too, yeah. Never get to see them.
Okay, Roxie.
A few months ago, we had notification that the road god or the state was going to do Main Street, fill in potholes. I noticed that none of that's been done. Is that going to be rescheduled? Yeah, the curves is what ODOT's project is. Redoing all that ADA curves downtown. But you're right, during one presentation when the gentleman came, he said he could fill in the potholes. And that all went.
Follow up. Sorry.
No, I keep waiting and then.
Yeah, sure.
And it's getting worse.
Southside Park looks great. It really does. It's impressive. I went out there with my dog. So great.
Fantastic, thank you. And we're gonna bring that to take the Eagle Scout built 16 or 18 new back boxes, and so we're gonna do an inspection of the poles that are down there. I know there's several of them that we need to replace, but we're gonna get some new back boxes up on there too. And we're either the surplus ones that we have that we're hold on to for they did a great job.
Okay, this is unrelated to your report, but I talked to Gary about us having, well, council having a tour of basically all the public works facilities. Ian had brought that up, and I think it's good that we get eyes on everything, just so we kind of know what we're looking at. So when you describe like the water plant, it's like, oh yeah, you know, we've been there, we kind of know what it looks like. So I'll be talking with Gary and trying to figure out a good time, and council members as well, as far as what the real really is.
Yeah, I agree with you. So they'll help out, you know, talking about a certain piece of lab equipment or something that we're here to do. We kind of give you just what we've got, show you some of the equipment, so we're talking about it. So,
We might be able to do it before the snowy quarter. So. Maybe, yeah. Well, try. Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
The starting August 14th.
Yeah, August 14th. Oh, Ian.
Several of the places across with different things I've seen, the tank that was installed in Southside Park referred to as a septic tank. I know it's being used as a holding tank, which is being pumped out. So I'm curious as to whether or not it is a holding tank or is it a septic tank that's being used as a holding tank.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's my fault too. A lot of the time, I used to call it septic. It's really sticky. My bad for using the wrong term.
Okay.
Just curious how many of that pump it and each pump in it, where does it go?
It will be, we have to hire a specific, disposal company for it. I don't imagine it's gonna be, I heard about that, we have to have a specific company pump it out, but I don't remember the specifics. So, but I can get it.
We worked with the county. So we worked with the county to figure out kind of the demand for it, and so we knew that we got the right size, and we worked with the company to make sure that we got the right size for how often to have it pumped out. But yes, it's a third-party company. There's several of them in the state of Oregon that specialize in doing them. So pumping them out, and where they take them is wherever they have a permit to take them.
So we won't process that ourselves.
No, we will not process it.
That was an initial thought. That was bad. But, and then that holding tank, it does have alarms too for low level, high level. It does have all the different alarms. It has an auto dialer, so when it does reach different set points, if it happens, say on a big event, if we thought we were okay, we have it will call out, who's ever on call for that day or whatever, so that we can make the proper answers.
And those companies can come pretty quickly on demand.
Great. Any other questions? Great.
You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gary. Okay, all right, next, we have Gwen.
Good evening. Do you guys have any questions for me? I don't have much to add. July was all about summer reading programs and. Hang on. Sorry, July is all about summer reading programs, so that's pretty much what we've been focused on in the building and adding items to the shelves, so.
So when it says program participation, is that the summer reading program, or is that just?
That is that, and we have adult book clubs going on right now, so that includes both of those.
You might have mentioned this last month, but how many kids signed up for the summer reading? It sounded like it was more than we've had in the past.
It was, I believe it was 70 that we had signed up. I'm not sure the exact number that we've had checking in, but we have had pretty consistent check-ins with quite a few of the kids, so. Yes, so this week, tomorrow, we have magician Jeff Evans in the park at 4:30. He'll be performing for us. It'll be about a 45-minute to an hour performance. So we will be closing the library at 3:30, so we can go down there and help him get set up. And we'll also be giving out free books to the kids. That's part of the summer reading program. And then on Thursday, we'll be closing the building at 3 to head down to the YCCO picnic. And we'll be promoting the library, handing out calendars of what we have going on and everything for the families down there, and also handing out free books. Yes, and then, so last week it was way too warm to do our Paradise of Samoa performance. So they will be performing for us next Tuesday at 1:30 in the afternoon with up their performance.
So I believe tomorrow's supposed to be hot too.
Yes, and Jeff and I have been in contact today about the weather, and he says, you know, he can be in the shade. He has battery operated sound system and all that. So we'll have waters and popsicles and everything for everybody that attends. So, yeah.
All of the performers too are not out of the city budget.
No, they are. Yeah, there's some already put out through them. And then in August, Gary's staff and my staff will be getting together to do a fun program. So there will be more information on that.
Talent show.
What's that? Yeah. Oh. That could get interesting. No, it'll be a fun thing for the kids in the community to come enjoy.
This looks like, I mean, you've got some pretty good numbers, obviously, like, it looks like, numbers are down, probably because of the heat in summertime.
Yeah, in June, we always seem to see a drop in numbers because school's coming to an end, families are, you know.
All that vacation.
Exactly. So June, we seem to see a drop. September, we seem to see a drop because then they're getting back into school, so.
It's not like the library's not huge, it's just like the lower numbers.
Yeah.
Past couple months, still looks great.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for everyone?
Thank you.
Okay, next, code enforcement and safety report. I know Angel's not here, but should we have any questions about this? Maybe we'll ask Heidi.
We're working really hard right now to find opportunity for people who have been on the long grass list or the long vegetation list to find opportunities for them that are affordable, or what we really, really love is for a couple of volunteers to go and offer to help people that have long vegetation, because what we're finding is that some people have disabilities, or they're just physically unable to do that work, and you know, it's not only a blight, but it's also a fire hazard this time of the year. So if anybody knows anybody that would be interested in being a volunteer, or that has a landscape business that is a low rate, that would make a big difference to a lot of people, which is what I do. Is there any questions? Mayor got to meet the owner of the tow company.
I just like to comment that it's very thorough. It's not hard to figure out what's going on. They got to work very hard on it as well. The only question that comes up, I would have looked at cases, 5 cases for local, 22, 23. It looks like you're catching up. It's just odd that it was that long. It's still not closed.
Continue to make progressions essentially, and making those little steps towards improvement is what keeps them going.
But having closed 28 cases is outstanding compared to the past.
Angela's only been here, I believe she told me recently, for 3 months. So
with so much going on, as you heard, PGE with the wildfire, she is doing quite a bit of learning around that system. And she's also doing a cooling center. Because making sure that it's up and running for us. It's up and running for us. And tomorrow we will open a cooling center at the American Legion again. So it does take away a little bit from the cooling center.
So we're operating the cooling center, I thought.
No, we don't operate it, but we have to do certain things, so we have to like make sure that there's a coordination piece of it. So we have to tell Bobby that the time that's going to be free to make sure that volunteer, really volunteer, we will go out to have volunteers. Yeah, Julie, she's volunteer. So if you know of anybody that
then we did the review, the union contracts and the contracts. And I looked over we did those. But we'll just have to change it in the next session. So we'll
Yes. And I'll be on Thursday.
Okay. Well, any questions or any questions about? Okay. Well, moving on to new business. So we'll move on to city manager report.
My report is included, let me know if you have any questions. I would just like to say that for the city staff is working really hard. Summer's posed all challenges, of course, and it wants everybody to, we all want to be out there and working harder because the weather allows for it, but it's just
My cutoff date to the county is the 27th. The candidates have to have everything to us by the 23rd to give us the time to review it, to certify it to the county.
Anyway, that's just a long day. It's on that city calendar, the city here in the site. You can scroll down to where the river is, and take it from what we have. And just cover this, sign it up. It's there, you know, you have to do a current document.
It's right here on our website, though. What it calls the ribbon is the film strip.
I just want to make it clear to the citizens of the town that the psilocybin law we voted on tonight refers to, in here, maybe someone misleading the language, but this does not refer to this, it refers to psilocybin related businesses. And the businesses that are being referred to here are medical clinics. And this is misleading in the sense that it's not, this is not a dispensary of sorts or any kind for public use access. These are medical clinics. Here's what we go from.
Ask you, I didn't know what you said, but I think that we're trying to first 2 years ago. We're not talking about for the street corner. You got to go to plenty of it.
That's correct. This is, these are clinics. Several of them, this is one all which have owned by Starbucks.
And then, I know you office. I heard, I know that having producers to produce, they're ready to sell out, and they're not, they're overproducing some of the producers.
done, and Nick, so Nick and I met, and we made a couple of changes, and it's, it was dropped to commission. So we, got this done, obviously, and ready to send that to you a little bit.
I think at the August, I don't know if we discussed at the August meeting, go over it. And then, well, my first, last was I met with some office, about the town hall. And during the town hall meeting, I will discuss the task force report. Well, we'll talk about it next meeting, well, next meeting. Then also, discuss that at the town hall.
What was the date for that?
October 10th. Ian.
Was there significant investigations in the report that I got for you? My concern is that it's a summary of events and not a report. And I would like to see some, or somebody, this, some kind of report, because I can look up summary. That's very easy, so.
So will you tell me which part you've done this?
I don't know, because that's what that all means. I
Well,
would like to know
I
what the findings are.
perfect, the findings are on the last page. You see that last page?
Um,
I'll get the whole report to the city. Could be.
We want to go apart.
Oh, yeah. Roxie is very good, available at 6 for executive session next Monday.
What's the number of the day?
22. I mean, if we want to have a tentative, start time at 6, and then who's not able to make it 7, but, I think I'll be short of the last one.
July 22nd?
Yeah. We'll send that in, but I will check with tomorrow. Okay. Okay. So, it'll work out. If it doesn't, we'll let everybody know. All right. Yeah.
Oh,
Right. Yeah, just-
I took baby having no such a dog because every dog I picked up a lot of it. And there's two sinkholes.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. There's two sinkholes, not that I'm saying sinkhole, but there's two holes on the Meridian strip, one on either side of one of their building. And she said one is really concerning, the woman got out of her car and she fell. And she said the city bought, one of those, who set up one barricade on one side, but they need two. They need one of the other, so she said there's two, on either side, there's holes. That people are, she's afraid when people park there and get out and then fall.
You wanna share the address of those areas?
It's the corner of Yamhill and Bridge. And you know where the Heron Dog is?
Over there like 229.
She's really good, but I have her number, I can send it to you.
Do you know where that is?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we'll
I'm
just.
not sure if you know about this. Yeah, well,
Very